Hey readers, welcome back to Reads with Rune B. Before we get into our read today, I would like to take a moment to address the sound issues in the last few videos that were done in the park with my headset. I apologize for them being so very quiet. I have now fixed, with luck, I have now fixed that issue. Today marks the start of our new read, Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. This will be a series of 12 videos, one posted each week. This will take us straight through to early November, at which time we might have a short break. And then we'll be starting our Xmas read. And with the start of our Xmas read, we will be doing something special as requested by you, my loyal readers. So now housekeeping is done. Let's get to it. Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. The child appear unclouded brow, with dreaming eyes of wonder. Though time be fleet, and I and thou are half a life asunder, thy loving smile will surely hail thy love gift of a fairy tale. I have not seen thy sunny face, nor heard thy silvery laughter. No thought of me shall find a place in thy young life's hereafter. Enough that now thou wilt not fail to listen to my fairy tale. A tale begun in other days when summer suns were glowing, when a simple chime that served to time the rhythm of our rowing, whose echoes live in memory yet, though envious years would say forget. Come hearken then, ere voice of dread, with bitter tidings laden, shall summon to unwelcome bed a melancholy maiden. But we are older children, dear, who fret to find our bedtimes near. Without the frost, the blinding snow, the storm wind's moody madness, within the firelight's ruddy glow, a childhood's nest of gladness. The magic word shall hold thee fast, thou shalt not heed thy raving blast. And though the shadow of a sigh may tremble through the story, for happy summer days gone by, and vanished summer glory, it shall not touch, with breath of bale, the pleasance of our fairy tale. I apologize, I'm very stuffed up today. Preface. As the chess problem, given on the next page, which I will show you, has puzzled some of my readers, it may be well to explain that it is correctly worked out, so far as the moves are concerned. The alternation of red and white is perhaps not so strictly observed as it might be, and the castling of the 3 queens is merely a way of saying that they have entered the palace. But the checking of the white king at move 6, and the capture of the red knight at move 7, and the final checkmate of the red king will be found by anyone who takes the trouble to set the pieces and play the moves as directed to be strictly in accordance with the laws of the game. The new words in the poem Jabberwocky have given rise to some difference of opinion as to their pronunciation, so it may be well to give instructions on that point also. The pronunciation of slithy, as if it were 2 words, sly, thee, and make the G hard in gyre and gimble, and pronounce wrath to rhyme with bath. And as I promised, here, for anyone who wants to see them, the chess moves. I apologize if it is not very clear. I will leave that up for a minute so that everybody can take a time and actually study it and see it for what it is. Okay, got it? Let's continue. Chapter 1, The Looking Glass House. And here is Alice with the black kitten. One thing was certain, the white kitten had nothing to do with it. It was the black kitten's fault entirely. For the white kitten had been having its face washed by the old cat for the last quarter of an hour, and bearing it pretty well, considering. So you see, it couldn't have had any hand in the mischief. Why Dinah washed her children's faces The way Dinah washed her children's faces was this. First she held down the poor thing by its ear with one paw, and then with the other she rubbed its face all over the wrong way, beginning at the nose. And just now, as I said, she was hard at work with the white kitten, which was laying quite still and trying to purr, no doubt feeling that it was all meant for its good. But the black kitten had been finished with earlier in the afternoon, and so it was, while Alice was sitting curled in a corner of the great armchair, half talking to herself and half asleep. The kitten had been having a grand game of romps with the ball of worsted that Alice had been trying to wind up, and she had been rolling it up and down until it had all come undone again, and there it was, spread all over the hearth rug, all knots and tangles, with the kitten running after its own tail in the middle. "Oh, you wicked, wicked little thing!" cried Alice, catching up the kitten and giving it a little kiss to make it understand that it was in disgrace. Really, Dinah ought to have taught you better manners." And here she is, picking up our black kitten and telling him off. "You ought, Dinah, you really ought," she added, looking reproachfully at the old cat and speaking in as cross a voice as she could manage. And then she scrambled back into the armchair, taking the kitten up and the worsted with her, and began winding the ball again. She didn't get on very fast, as she was talking all the time, and sometimes to the kitten, and sometimes to herself. The kitten sat very demurely on her knee, pretending to be watching the progress of the winding. And now and again, let me start over. The kitty sat very demurely on her knee, pretending to watch the progress of the winding, and now and then putting out one paw and gently touching the ball, as if it would gladly help if it might. "Do you know what tomorrow is, Kitty?" Alice began. You'd have guessed if you'd been up in the window with me, only Dinah was making you tidy, so you couldn't. I was watching the boys get in the sticks for the bonfire." "It wants plenty of sticks, Kitty, only it got so cold and it snowed, so they had to leave off. Never mind, Kitty, we'll go and see the bonfire tomorrow." And here Alice wound two or three turns of the worsted around the kitten's neck, just to see how it would look. This led to a scramble, in which the ball rolled down upon the floor, and yards of it got unwound again. "Do you know, I was so angry, Kitty," Alice went on as soon as they were comfortably settled again, "when I saw all the mischief you had been doing. I was very nearly opening the window and putting you out into the snow, and you'd have deserved it, you mischievous little darling. What have you got to say for yourself? Now, don't interrupt me," she went on, holding up one finger. "I'll tell you your faults. Number 1, you squeaked twice while Dinah was washing your face this morning. Now, you can't deny it, Kitty, I heard you. What's that you say?" Pretending the kitten was speaking. "Her paw went in your eye? Well, that's your fault for not keeping your eyes open." "Her paw went in your eye? Well, that's your fault for keeping your eyes open. If you'd shut them up tight, it wouldn't have happened. Now, don't make any more excuses, but listen. Number 2, you pulled Snowdrop away by the tail, just as I put down the saucer of milk before her. What? You were thirsty, were you? How do you know she wasn't thirsty, too? Now for number 3. You unwound every bit of worsted while I wasn't looking. That's 3 faults, Kitty, and you've not been punished for any of them yet. You know I'm saving up all your punishments for a Wednesday week. Suppose they saved up all my punishments, she went on, talking more to herself than the kitten. I would say, what would they do at the end of the year? I should be sent to prison, I suppose, when the day came. Or, let me see, suppose the punishment was going without dinner, and then, when the miserable day came, I should have to go without 50 dinners all at once. Well, I shouldn't mind that much. I'd much rather go without than eat them all. Do you hear the snow against the window panes, Kitty? How nice and soft it sounds, just as if someone were kissing the window all over outside. I wonder if the snow loves the trees and fields, and it kisses them so gently. And then it covers them up snug, you know, with a white quilt, and perhaps it says, "Go to sleep, darlings, till summer comes once again." And then they wake up in the summer, Kitty, and they dress themselves all in green and dance about whenever the wind blows. "Oh, that's very pretty," cried Alice, dropping the bowl of worsted and clapping her hands, "and I do wish it were true. I'm sure the woods look so sleepy in the autumn when the leaves are getting brown." "Kitty, can you play chess? Now don't smile, my dear. I'm asking it seriously, because when we were playing just now, you were watching as if you understood it, and when I said check, you purred. Well, it was a nice check, Kitty, and I really might have won if it hadn't been for that nasty knight coming along and wriggling down among my pieces. Kitty, dear, let's pretend." And here I wish I could tell you half of the things that Alice used to say, beginning with her favorite phrase, "Let's pretend." Here is our black kitten. She had quite a long argument with her sister only the day before, all because Alice had begun with, "Let's pretend we're kings and queens," and her sister, who liked being very exact, had argued that they couldn't, because there were only two of them, and because Alice had been reduced at last to say, "Well, you can be one of them, and I'll be all the rest." And at once she had really frightened her old nurse by shouting suddenly in her ear, "Nurse, do let's pretend I'm a hungry hyena and you're a bone." But this is taking away from Alice's speech to the kitten. "Let's pretend that you're the Red Queen, Kitty. I think if you sat with your arms folded, you'd look exactly like her. Now do try, there's a dear." And Alice got the Red Queen off the table and set it before the kitten as a model for it to imitate. However, the thing didn't succeed. Principally, Alice said, because the kitten wouldn't fold its arms properly, and so she punished it and held it up to the looking-glass, that it might see how sulky it was. And here is the queen that Alice let the kitten see. "And if you're no good directly," she added, "I'll put you into the looking-glass house. How would you like that? Now, if you only attend, kitten, and not talk so much, I'll tell you about my ideas about the looking-glass house. First, the room you can see through the looking-glass is just the same as our drawing room, only things are the other way around. I can see all of it when I get up upon the chair, all that bit, but just behind the fireplace. Oh, I do wish I could see that bit. I want so much to know if they've a fire in winter. You can never tell, you know, unless our fireplace smokes, and then smoke comes up in that room too. But that may only be pretense, just to make it look as if they had a fire. Well then, the books are something like our books, only the words go the wrong way. I know that, because I've held one of our books up to the glass, and then they hold one of theirs up in the other room. How would you like to live in the looking-glass house, Kitty? I wonder perhaps if they would give you milk there. Perhaps the looking-glass milk isn't good to drink. But oh, Kitty, now we come to the passage. You can just see a little peep of the passage in the looking-glass house if you leave the door out of our drawing room open wide, and it's very like our passage as far as you can see. Only, you know, it may be quite different beyond. Oh, Kitty, how nice it would be if we could only get into the looking-glass house. I'm sure it's got, such beautiful things in it. Let's pretend that there's a way through into it somehow, Kitty. Let's pretend that the glass has gone all soft and like gauze, and that we can get through. Why, it's turning into some sort of mist now, I declare. It might be easy enough to get through. She was up on the chimney-piece while she said this, and though she hardly knew how she got there, and certainly the glass was beginning to melt away, just like a silvery bright mist. In another moment Alice was through the glass, and had jumped lightly down into the looking-glass room. The very first thing she did was to look whether there was a fire in the fireplace, and she was quite pleased to find that there was a real one, blazing away brightly as the one she had left behind. So I shall be as warm here as I was in the old room, thought Alice. Warmer, in fact, because I'll have no one to scold me away from the fire. Oh, wait, and here is Alice slipping through to the looking-glass house. Oh, what fun it'll be when they see me through the glass in here and can't get at me. And then she began looking about, and she noticed what could be seen from the old room was quite common and uninteresting, but that all the rest was different as possible. For instance, the pictures on the wall next to the fire seemed to be alive, and the very clock on the chimney-piece, you can only see it from the back of in the looking-glass, had got the face of a little old man, and it grinned at her. They don't keep this room so tidy as the other, Alice thought to herself, as she noticed several chessmen down in the hearth among the cinders. But in another moment, with a slight of surprise, and here is Alice through the looking-glass and everything. She was down on her hands and knees, watching them. The chessmen were walking about 2 and 2. Here the Red King and the Red Queen, said Alice in a whisper, for fear of frightening them. And there are the White King and the White Queen sitting on the edge of the shovel. And there are the 2 castles walking arm in arm. I don't think they can hear me, she went on, and she put her head down closer, and I'm nearly sure they can't see me. I feel somehow as if I were invisible. Here, something began to squeak on the table behind Alice, and made her turn her head just in time to see one of the white pawns roll over and begin kicking. She watched it with great curiosity to see what would happen next. "It's the voice of my child," said the White Queen, as she rushed past the king, so violently that she knocked him over among the cinders. "My precious Lily, my imperial kitten," she began to scramble up wildly on the side of the fender. "Imperial fiddlestick," said the king, rubbing his nose, which had been badly hurt by the fall. He was right to be a little annoyed with the queen, for now he was covered in ash from head to foot, and Alice was so very anxious to be of use, and poor little Lily was nearly screaming her head off in a fit. She hastily picked the queen up and set her on the table side by side of her by the side of her noisy little daughter. The queen gasped and sat down. The rapid journey through the air had quite taken her breath away, and for a minute or two she could do nothing but hug little Lily in silence. As soon as she had recovered a little of her breath, she called out to the White King, who was sitting sulkily among the ashes, "Mind the volcano!" "What volcano?" said the king, looking up anxiously into the fire, as though he thought it was the most likely place to find one. "Blew me up," panted the queen, who was still a little out of breath. "Mind you come up the regular way. Don't get blown up." Alice watched as the White King, as he slowly struggled up from bar to bar, till at last she said, "Why, you'll be hours and hours getting to the table. At that rate, I'd better help you, hadn't I?" But the king took no notice of the question, and it was quite clear he could neither hear nor see her. So Alice picked him up very gently, and lifted him across more slowly than she had lifted the Queen, that she mightn't take his breath away. But before she could put him on the table, she thought she might as well dust him off a little, as he was so covered with ashes. She said afterwards that she had never seen such a face in all her life as the king made, and when he found himself held in the air by an invisible hand and being dusted, he was far too much astonished to cry out. But his eyes and mouth went on getting larger and larger and rounder, till she shook her hand till her hand shook with so much laughing that she nearly let him drop to the floor. "Oh, please don't make such faces, my dear," she cried out, quite forgetting the king couldn't hear her. "You'll make me laugh so hard that I can hardly hold you. And don't keep your mouth open so wide, you'll get ashes there. And there now, I think you're tidy enough," she added, as she smoothed his hair and set him upon the table near the Queen. The king immediately fell flat on his back, and lay perfectly still. Alice was a little alarmed at what she had done, and went around the room to see if she could find any water to throw over him. However, she could find nothing but a bottle of ink, and when she got back she had found he had recovered, and he and the Queen were talking together in a frightened whisper, so low that Alice could hardly hear what they said. The king was saying, "I assure you, my dear, I turned cold to the very ends of my whiskers," to which the Queen replied, "You haven't got any whiskers." The horror of that moment! I shall never, ever forget it. The horror. You will, though, if you don't make a memorandum of it. Alice looked on with great interest as the king took out an enormous memorandum book out of his pocket and began to write, and a sudden thought struck her. She took hold of the end of the pencil, which came some way over his shoulder, and began writing for him. The poor king looked puzzled and unhappy, and struggled with the pencil for some time without saying anything, but Alice was too strong for him, and at last he panted out, "My dear, I really must get a new and thinner pencil. I can't manage this one a bit. It writes all manner of things I don't intend." "What manner of things?" said the Queen, looking over the book in which Alice had put. "The White Knight is sliding down the poker. He balanced very badly. That's not a memorandum of your feelings." There was a book lying near Alice on the table, and while she sat watching the White King, for she was still a little anxious about him, and had the ink all ready to throw over him just in case he fainted again, she turned over the leaves to find some part that she could read, "for it's all in some language I don't understand," she said to herself. It was like this. And here you can see that it's backwards because it's in Looking Glass speech. She puzzled over this for some time, and then at last a bright thought struck her. "Why, it's Looking Glass book, of course. If I hold it up to the glass, the words will go the right way again." This was the poem that Alice read. Jabberwocky, 'twas brillig and the slithy toes that gyre and gimble in the wabe, all mimsy were the borogoves, and the moanraths outgrabe. Beware the Jabberwock, my son, with jaws that bite and claws that catch. Beware the Jubjub bird, and shun the the Furious Bandersnatch. He took his vorpal sword in hand, long time the maximum foe he sought. So he rested by the tum-tum tree, and stood a while in thought. And as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whiffling through the tulgey wood, and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, through and through. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with his head he came galumphing back. Hast thou slain thy Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. O fraptious day, callooh, callay, he chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toves did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogoves, and the momraths outgrabe. And here is the beamish boy fighting the fearsome Jabberwock. It seems very pretty, she said when she had finished. But it's rather hard to understand. You see, she didn't like to confess, even to herself, that she couldn't make it out at all. Somehow, it seems to fill my head with ideas, only I don't exactly know what they are. However, someone killed something, and that's clear at any rate. But oh, thought Alice, suddenly jumping up, if I don't make haste, I shall have to go back through the looking-glass before I've seen what the rest of the house is like. Let's have a look in the garden first. She went out of the room in a moment and ran down the stairs, or at least, it wasn't exactly running, but this new invention of getting downstairs quickly and easily, as Alice said to herself. She just kept the tips of her fingers on the handrail and floated gently down without ever touching the stairs with her feet. And then she floated down through the hall and would have gone straight out the door in the same way if she hadn't caught hold of the doorpost. She was getting a little too giddy. With so much floating in the air, she was rather glad to find herself walking in the natural way again. And here's a picture of Alice floating down the staircase. And that is the end of our video for today. Next week is Chapter 2, The Garden of Live Flowers. See you then, readers!